We have a lot to talk about today, including a blockbuster trade between the Seattle Kraken and the Tampa Bay Lightning, as well as a minor deal between the Panthers and Sharks, and a few notable players have been taken off of the trade market in the last 24 hours because they signed extensions with their current teams. I'm going to break everything down for you guys in this video, and of course we have to start off with the big one. The Tampa Bay Lightning have acquired Oliver Bjorkstrand and Yanni Gourde from the Seattle Kraken, as well as a 2026 fifth-round draft pick and prospect Kyle LeCoin from the Red Wings. Seattle is retaining 50% on Yanni Gourde. The Red Wings are also retaining 25% on Yanni Gourde, so he's on the books for the Tampa Bay Lightning at a cap hit of just $1.29 million. For helping facilitate this deal and using up one of their retention spots, the Red Wings are receiving a fourth-round draft pick. It will be the higher of Tampa Bay or Edmonton's fourth-rounder in the upcoming draft. And Seattle is receiving Mikey Asimon, Toronto's 2025 second-round draft pick, and Tampa Bay's first in both 2026 and 2027. The first-round draft picks are both top 10 protected. If either first is in the top 10, it slides back 1 year, so both picks could slide back to 2028 and 2029. Seattle will gain an additional third-round draft pick from Tampa Bay each time that happens, if it does. So obviously, a lot of moving parts to this trade. Let's start breaking it down. Is this a bit of an overpay by the Tampa Bay Lightning? I think it's safe to say it is. Does that mean this is a bad trade for Tampa Bay? Absolutely not. If it wasn't already clear before making this trade, the Tampa Bay Lightning do not care about draft picks. This is the same team that traded almost an entire draft's worth of picks for Tanner Jeannot. Victor Hedman is 34, McDonough is 35, Kucherov's 31, Vasilevsky is 30. The Tampa Bay Lightning are in win-now mode, and they have no problem with mortgaging their future to put themselves in the best possible position to win another Stanley Cup with this core. And there's no doubt about it, this trade makes the Tampa Bay Lightning a much better team. I don't think it's too crazy to say that this trade makes the Tampa Bay Lightning the current favorites to come out of the Eastern Conference. They desperately needed a winger to round out their top six. 5 out of the 6 spots in that top 6 were solidified with guys like Gensel, Point, Kucherov, Hagel, and Cirelli, but that second line right wing spot had been a bit of a revolving door for Tampa Bay all season. Nick Paul played there at times. Recently it was Zemgus Girgensons. I'm here to tell you with 100% certainty, Oliver Bjorkstrand is a massive upgrade for Tampa Bay in the top 6 over Zemgus Girgensons. Bjorkstrand has scored 20 plus goals in 5 out of the last 6 seasons. He's likely going to score 20 plus again this season, as he's already up to 16 in 61 games. He's a very effective two-way winger as well, strong in all 3 zones, and in my opinion, an underrated aspect of this trade is the fact that Oliver Bjorkstrand is still signed through next season. This isn't just a rental. This fills a big need for the Tampa Bay Lightning, not just for the remainder of this season and for the playoffs, but for next season as well, which is huge. On top of getting Bjorkstrand, the Lightning are also bringing back Yanni Gourde, who obviously played a massive part in Tampa Bay, winning back-to-back Stanley Cups. This is a huge upgrade for Tampa Bay at the number 3 center position. Yanni Gourde is one of the best forecheckers in the league, great defensively, a lead on the penalty kill, and although his offensive production has dried up a little bit over the last few seasons, we know Yanni Gourde is capable of chipping in some offense. He's had some big moments in the playoffs. This move also allows Tampa Bay to move Nick Paul back to the wing full-time. On paper, the Lightning's top 9 looks absolutely insane, so even though Tampa Bay may have overpaid, I think this is a move you make 10 out of 10 times for a team that's in the position the Tampa Bay Lightning are in. And to be honest, if I was a Lightning fan, I would rather give up these future first-round draft picks than any one of Tampa's top prospects like Connor Geekie, Isaac Howard, or Dylan Duke. Shifting focus now and talking about this deal from the point of view of the Seattle Kraken, this is obviously a slam dunk of a trade for them. Based off of the way last season went and how this season has gone so far for Seattle, it's pretty clear that that is a team that should be retooling and looking to build for the future, and the future looks pretty bright. Shane Wright is having a great season. Capo Caco has been a nice addition. There's obviously still a ton of potential there with Matty Beniers. Berkeley Catton is having an unbelievable season in the WHL after Seattle took him 8th overall in the most recent draft. And on top of all that, now Seattle has 5 first-round picks in the next 3 drafts. And who knows, by the end of the week, Seattle could end up having more first-round draft picks, as there's still a lot of talk about guys like Jared McCann and Jamie Alexiak potentially being traded. I really like this deal for both Tampa Bay and Seattle. I think this is a win-win trade. And as far as the Red Wings go, I mean, it is a seller's market, especially with the recent stretch of play. It probably doesn't make sense for Steve Yzerman to go out and buy. They have a ton of cap space. Prior to making this deal, they had all 3 salary retention spots, so why not go out and make use of it and get an additional mid-round draft pick? Moving on now to the other trade that happened happened today, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, this is a minor deal. The Florida Panthers have went out and acquired goaltender Vanecek from the San Jose Sharks in exchange for Patrick Giles, who is an undrafted minor league player. This is as close to future considerations as it gets. Not a surprise at all to see the Panthers go out and make a move like this after trading Spencer Knight as part of the Seth Jones trade that left them with Chris Driedger as their backup goaltender. Driedger has played a total of 2 NHL games in the last 2 seasons combined, so I can't imagine they would have been comfortable going into the playoffs with him as their backup goaltender. Even though Vanecek's numbers are not pretty this season, and they weren't last season either, at the very least he has played a good amount of games in the NHL over the last few seasons. This is a marginal upgrade for the Florida Panthers, and no disrespect to Patrick Giles, but they basically got Vanecek for free. So that's it for the trades that have happened today. Let's now talk about a couple of extensions, starting off with one that happened yesterday. Jake Evans has agreed to a 4-year extension with the Montreal Canadiens that carries an annual cap hit of just $2.85 million. Jake Evans obviously really wanted to stay in Montreal because, in my opinion, this is a lot less than he could have gotten in free agency, and I think that really speaks to the culture they're building right now in Montreal, that somebody like Jake Evans would leave quite a bit of money on the table to stay. Montreal has been able to rattle off 5 straight victories, and they are now just 1 point out of a wildcard spot, so it's nice that they were able to get Jake Evans locked up before the trade deadline because he's obviously a pretty important player for them. Matthew Olivier, another player whose name was floating around quite a bit in trade talks, has signed an extension with the Columbus Blue Jackets, and it's a big one. 6 years with an annual cap hit of $3 million. It also includes a 10-team no-trade clause. I mean, good for Matthew Olivier, who is one of the premier tough guys in the NHL. You usually don't see players like him get contracts like this. Prior to this season, Matthew Olivier had never scored more than 5 goals in a season, and for the most part, he had been a 4th-line enforcer until this season, where he's definitely played a much bigger role than that. He's physical, good defensively, obviously has no problem dropping the gloves and protecting his teammates. It goes without saying, but I think his career-high 12 goals this season probably played a pretty big part in him landing this kind of contract. I'm not really sure how sustainable that is. I mean, he's shooting 15% this season, but even when that shooting percentage inevitably regresses, Matthew Olivier is still going to be an important piece for Columbus. He's obviously a big part of their locker room, and with the salary cap on the rise, before long it's probably going to be pretty normal to see 4th-liners making between $2.5 and $3 million a season. And now finally, finishing up the video with the last extension we have to talk about, the Buffalo Sabres have signed Jordan Greenway to a 2-year extension worth $4 million per season. Not really sure how I feel about this one for the Buffalo Sabres. Jordan Greenway's a useful player. He's a big physical defensive winger, kind of similar to Matthew Olivier in that sense. The Sabres obviously aren't going to make the playoffs this season. Prior to signing this extension, Jordan Greenway was a pending UFA. With how the market is, they might have been able to get a pretty decent return for a guy like Jordan Greenway. It just feels like a bit of a strange decision to extend him while potentially looking to trade players like JJ Peterka, Dylan Cousins, and Bowen Byram. So that is going to wrap up today's video, breaking down all of the moves that went down in the NHL today. As always, I want to know what you guys are thinking, especially if you're a fan of either Seattle or Tampa Bay. Sound off down below in the comments. Let me know how you're feeling about that big trade. If you made it all this way to the end of the video and you ended up enjoying yourself, please remember to leave a like. It's the best way to let me know that you enjoyed, and it does help out the videos a ton. And most importantly, be sure to hit that subscribe button if you're new, because we are going to be uploading videos just like this, breaking down all of the major deals that happen between now and the trade deadline on Friday.